Hello and welcome into Phoenix Breathwork, the podcast Breathe to Rise. I am Jessie, your host, and I am so excited to bring you a wonderful friend and guest on today. We've got Francesca Blechner, who is joining us for today's podcast. Fran is a holistic health and embodiment leadership coach, and she is the founder of Mind Body Alchemist. And I am so excited to be speaking to her today. So, Fran, welcome in and thank you for your time. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thanks, Jessie. Thanks for inviting me.
You're so welcome. And I am going to share because I like to keep this podcast as real as possible. But this is Fran and I's take two today because we had a few technical hitches or one big one. So we are doing this for the second time. So thank you again for giving us your time today, Fran. I'm so excited to have you on here today. So
Me too.
first of all, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm doing great. I've just been away to Miami for something. So
Oh,
I feel topped up with the sun, recharged, and I'm feeling good. I have a lot of creative energy that's been running through me. So just taking time to ground it in, rest, recalibrate. There's a lot of recalibration going on right now. So yeah, just honoring that to be able to ground in what's coming through.
I love that. I love all of that. And I really want you to explain a little bit more about what you mean about grounding. But before you do, just tell our listeners, for anyone who doesn't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Right. So what I do now, it's been a bit of a journey. So what I do now, predominantly, I work with soul-led, mission, purpose-led entrepreneurs, high achievers to optimize their health and to embody their deepest leadership so that they can bring their soul medicine out into the world. So what that means is basically bringing everything together. Health is not just physical. My background started in physical health back 23 years ago, working in gyms, in fitness, personal training, nutrition, massage, all of that. So it was very physical, but health is so much more than just the physical. We can sleep well and eat good food and all of this, but what about the mental, emotional, and the spiritual, like living your life in alignment with your purpose and values? So there's some really big things that lead to burnout, which is an area I worked in a lot over the past 7-8 years with burnout, which is that emotional, mental, spiritual component. It's not just physical at all. So I look at health very holistically, and in order to bring ground, as I was saying, your gifts, your soul medicine, your entrepreneurship, bring it out into the world requires a foundation, a strong foundation of health, of optimal health, to thrive in all areas of your life, not just in business, but I've primarily worked with people who run their businesses that are just, their business might be successful, but their health it's at a compromise of their health and their energy, which was me about 10-15 years ago, from being so physical with my work as a personal trainer, just thinking that I was, invincible, that I, wouldn't get tired. It was weak to admit that I was really tired.
Yeah.
And just being constantly on the go, living a fast pace, and great in my 20s, 30s, it will slap you in the face. And that's what happened.
It really will. It really will. And I say that because it happened to me. I was like, I'm describing me here as well, like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, so many people. So yeah, so that's kind of then my journey sort of went down that route. Wrote a book, Self-Care for Life in the City, which was based on the principles that I had to kind of go through to how do you thrive in the modern world that isn't really conducive to your health. And so, there's certain pillars to work with. And then I just, yeah, through my own journey and interest in wellness and fitness and health and all of these things, came across different trainings and bodywork techniques that ultimately reflected that your mental, emotional state would manifested in your physical, really, your health, your structural alignment, how your nervous system impacts everything, how you think, feel, and behave. So, you know, a lot of the work that I then trained in was like, well, this is actually for me. This is for me first.
Yeah.
And then my clients. So
But I
yeah.
absolutely love that. And I think that that's why, in my eyes, you are a true embodiment of what you bring to the world and what gifts you share. And I love you said soul medicine a few times, and that really spoke to me because it is. And what you do, I love everything you do. And, you know, this is a podcast about sharing the gift of breath and the power of breath. And that's been a huge element of your work and in your journey, which I'd love you to
Yeah.
share more of.
Yeah.
But there's so many other aspects as well. And like you said, it's the steps that you've taken that have worked for you that you're now sharing, because it's a program. And this is all listed in your book, isn't it? So your pillars that you've implemented in your life.
Yes. How to nourish your self-care for life and assist, but how to nourish your mind, body, and soul in a fast-paced world. Yeah.
Love that. Yes, please. Sign me up. I'll have some more. And so, Fran, tell us a little bit more about what sparked this journey. So you say before you were doing a lot of health and fitness work and, you know, working as an entrepreneur yourself, but what sparked the journey to go deeper into this, and how did your work evolve? Was there any kind of triggers? Did you reach a point that you talk about, you know, being on the go all the time, being invincible, feeling invincible? Was there a trigger point? Was there a moment when you're like, no, or something's got to change?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, I would, you know, working in London, like just working in the modern world, you know, most people that I was working with, I started to notice that they were burnt out. Or if I would turn up at their home, for example, I'd have like bring my kettlebells with me, and they would burst in. Something had happened where they would burst into tears. And I was like, okay, I became very intuitive in the way that I worked. It's like, okay, we're not doing kettlebells today. We're going to do some restorative body work or something. So I became very intuitive with how I was working with my clients, and then I started to see the patterns. It's like, wow, everyone's burnt out just from life, just from
From life.
lifing, work, parenting, perhaps running the household, all of these things. And I guess back then, self-care wasn't so big as is now, and kind of mental and emotional well-being wasn't as big, with the bridge of fitness and physical health. So I started to notice that, and just studied more of that area about burnout and hormones and stress. And then I myself in my 30s, I was like, I couldn't keep up the pace I was living. I started to burn out. Like, it was just becoming a regular thing. Like, every few months hit that bridge of burnout and need to recuperate. And to the point where you sort of start to lose the joy in what you do. And I think I got to an age as well, you know, and I'm sure many people can relate to this. Listening to this, you're in the early 30s. This is where you should be now in life. You should be settling down, buying a home with your partner, getting married, having children. And that I was putting immense pressure on myself that's where I should be, because that's what's happening all around me, and then that's what society is telling me that I should be doing. And so that was putting an extra level of burnout on the layer. It's like, oh, you know, that's where I'm meant to be. That's not happening. So
Expectations are hard to carry.
yeah. And so I kind of fell into different, I think I was explained before, bodywork training that really mirrored back the state of your nervous system, and what's in your mind is in your physiology, shows up. There's no running away from it. The body doesn't lie. And a lot of it was centered around the diaphragm and breathing as a first point of call that you look at for the whole body. And I was like, oh my gosh, worked with the body for 15 years. How come I've never heard about this? How come I don't know about this? So I was having, it really transformed me because it showed me the contrast of how dysregulated my nervous system was to actually feeling more in my body, you could say, present. And it took about a week to recalibrate. I always explain, I never forget that moment, because I felt like it took me half an hour to find my way out of the car park.
Mm.
And for a week, I felt my whole system just like slow motion, like recalibrating. And I was like, it made me reevaluate like the pace that I was living and like why I was living like that. And so
And
started to work.
this is from the working with the diaphragm.
Yeah, through different points in the body. It's called muscle activation, and it's working through different points in the body that kind of link to the neural points and sort of rewire the stress response, basically. So it has a direct impact on your nervous system. And it basically made me realize like mine was pretty effed from being on the go, and I had no idea. And so I started to work with my clients with that and was getting amazing results. And I was sharing before that first it was used for structural alignment, athletic performance, have the body in correct alignment. But what resulted, it was all the same. Mental, emotional collapse manifested in the body physically as collapse. So shoulder injuries and things, you can work with just the shoulder, but when you get into, okay, well, why is it that you're getting, for example, anxiety? I had one guy who used to come to me, always had like neck issues, shoulder issues. But we'd work with that, realign it, it would go back. And then the pattern was showing up in his life. Like whenever he had like anxiety attack or panic attacks, it would be on a Sunday evening or after a long bank holiday weekend, not feeling too well, not going into work. So the work was a trigger. Walking into work would trigger feelings of anxiety because it wasn't in alignment with for him. And so then there would be a pattern of checking out in life, getting wasted for a few days of the week to the point that you can't stop, because ultimately it was like not living life in alignment with his purpose and values. So when we kind of got into that and just rebooting your nervous system and making that, seeing that blind spot basically, then the body starts to, it can expand. Even if you can't fix, not that you ever fix, but even if you can't resolve that issue straight away of the work, it doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. But just being able to see that blind spot and how it's manifests in the body's like, feels like it's heard. So I was like, this isn't just physical, this is emotional, this is trauma, this is the stress that's held within the body. So, and then I came across breathwork, transformational breath, a few years later. I was like, okay, this sounds really interesting, because I'm already doing hands-on body work with the diaphragm and on the stomach and stuff. And I loved that it was combining that with the breath. So I was like, went along to a workshop, and it was really profound. I explained that experience as like experiencing like a whole range, all range of emotions in that hour or however long that was, and then suddenly feeling at this state of peace. It's almost like I went through like all this, like just every emotion, like chaos, and it was chaotic, but I was just hearing my internal subconscious, and then it was arriving at this peace that I don't remember really like have felt for a long time. I was like, this is really powerful. No interest in training in it. I was like, no, I've got too much on this year. I'm training in many things, blah, blah, blah. But spirit slammed me on the path.
Yes, which the breathwork often does, right?
Yeah.
So, and like you said, it's really interesting. There's so many parts of your story there I can, resonate with, and, I have shared a similar experience. Like my first breathwork experience, again, left me connected to a sense of peace and stillness I had probably never felt before. And I was like, what is this? Just from breathing. I had no intention to train either until I was in Brazil having huge breakthroughs. And I was like, whoa, no, I have to do this. But it's amazing that you just listened and you were guided and curious. And that's what led you to the next step each time. Before I do want to go a little bit more into your breathwork journey, but before we do, there's a few things that you touched on there that I really want to expand on. And as you said, you were on this journey working with clients and working with the body and understanding actually, the root causes to some of the pain in the body, stress, or, some kind of dysfunction in life, like, for example, work, that's then causing a different reaction and how it shows up in the body.
Yeah.
And like you said, the body finally felt heard. And
Mm.
it's true, because we disconnect so much from that.
Yeah.
We live a very cognitive life, right? We live in our heads a lot of the time, and we're so overstimulated, and we think about everything that we forget to feel about it or feel whatever it is. So, the example of this client that you mentioned, if he's feeling that whatever it is about the resistance or, discomfort about going to work, instead of feeling it, he's choosing to go down another route to either numb it or hide from it or not feel it. She's doing everything, in order to not feel what he needs to.
Yeah.
And that's how many of us live. I can
Yeah.
relate to that feeling. That was me in the past.
Mm. Yeah, so many. And it will manifest in the pain. It's like this persistent shoulder pain or neck pain. And then
Mm.
suddenly, when that blind spot is revealed and you can take your time to create steps to, okay, something needs to shift here,
Yeah.
then it's a lot of that tends to dissipate hugely.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we mentioned before something about like dropping back in the body, and you talk about being grounded. And that's all part of it, isn't it? Because like you said, if we can connect with the body and how it's feeling and listen to it, that's going to help us to be here in
Mm.
this moment and move through whatever it is that's coming up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, your inner, like was we were saying before, your inner world creates the outer world. So your inner landscape is reflected to the outer landscape, and so many people are living from the neck up and in a state of internal chaos because they're in survival. There's constant fear being pumped into the world, and as I was saying before, like we see that collectively, and the world is not, there's incredible things happening at the same time. There's really catastrophic things happening in the world collectively, and that is also a reflection of the internal chaos of the mass consciousness that is being held, that is then reflected out also externally as well.
Yeah. So true. So true. So, Fran, I'd love to go a little bit more into your breathwork journey. So you talk
Yeah.
about the first breathwork experience you had. You're like, whoa, this is, I feel great. And you had no intention of training to be a teacher at that point. So tell us a little bit about what led you onto the training path and what breath has done for you along the way.
Yeah, gosh. So yeah, that was a pivotal moment, and I think it really calls you when you're ready as well. Because to say that, I had actually come across transformational breath about 10 years before that at this taster day. Um, and I did about a breath analysis, and I was so shut down. I was like, this is weird, not interested. Didn't come across it for 10
Ah,
years.
you're like, not today. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. That was way too, like, I felt way too exposed, and I was like, no.
Mm,
So I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready then.
interesting.
So on that workshop, it was really profound. And the only reason I didn't have wasn't interested in training, just because I was doing a lot already that year. And um and I had actually I was on the email list. I signed up for an email list afterwards, and I had an email to say, oh, we're doing the seminar training for the levels 1 to 3. This is for yourself, to learn more about the breath, to use for your own personal use, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that sounds really, really good, but I'm actually booked on for another course that weekend. Course
Yeah.
junkie, fill up your time being busy. And
Yeah.
so, and then that course got cancelled. So at the same time that this was starting, so I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to go to that. And of course, once you do that seminar for yourself, then you can decide whether you want to go down the training route. And I had Natalie as my teacher the first time the training was done in the UK. So I was like, oh, she's just amazing. Like, she's like, Fran, you have to do this. So
But the
I
fact
I
that
was.
you had to be there, like you said, you were booked on to do something else that weekend.
Yeah,
That cleared itself out the diary, so you could be there.
yeah,
It's almost like you said before, it's like the breath finds you, right? And I completely
yeah,
agree with that.
it
And
did.
at the right time, 10 years ago, it wasn't the right time for you. But then at this
Yeah,
point, you're like, okay, something's connecting for you.
yeah. And so yeah, it's been amazing, transformative to the way that I work, transformative to clients. It's kind of fast track therapy.
How? Go into that a little bit more because I know what you're talking about. But for people that are
Yeah.
listening, when you talk about like its transformative qualities and its fast track, like in what way? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, well, if you think of the mind, the conscious mind is only 5% comes from the conscious mind. 5% of our behavior comes from the conscious mind. 95% comes from the subconscious. The subconscious is really the past, is our lived experience, our past lived experience. And that really lives in the nervous system, in the body. It's the unresolved emotions that haven't been completed in your nervous system and your physiology that can play out as repeated patterns in our life. So I was describing how my pattern was. I was very much, I would brace, hold my abs in tight. And I think a lot of women do that. And also, especially if we work in fitness, it's like, hold your abs in tight. You don't need to be doing that 24/7. Like, goddamn, breathe. You need to breathe.
So true.
So holding my abs in tight. And really, that was like one of physical armor, but it was also emotional armor. It was emotional. It was defense. It's like, don't come too close to me because I'm strong. I got it all together. I don't know how to do vulnerability because that wasn't I I didn't grow up with that. So, and I think that is a story for many people. So I was emotionally
Yeah.
armored. No wonder I couldn't attract somebody in my life for more than 3-4 months. And so what the breath has done has helped me to really connect the dots and threads of who I am and like and why these patterns repeat, but also to take responsibility, not blaming anybody else. It's like, that's really interesting about myself. Interesting. That makes sense. And then you're able to kind of clear and move it up and out of your system.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that, Fran. I absolutely love it. I don't know if I'm on screen for all of this, but I'm literally nodding to everything you're saying because I'm like, yeah, so, so powerful. And I love that you share that because I'm sure that there's so many people that could resonate with that, not allowing yourself to be vulnerable or not knowing how to be vulnerable and then going on that journey to open up into that.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that is life changing because it changes the way I'm so much more, when I look back to how I was, even though I was connected to my body in that physical sense, so I would, was very physical and active and trained and did athletics and capoeira and stuff like that. So I was very connected to my body. I wasn't really fully in my body. And I didn't know that until I know what I know, until I know how it felt, because that's a very intellectual concept. Oh yeah, of course I'm in my body. What do you mean I'm not in my body? But until you feel it, and then you feel how you move through life a different way, how you can be, more present and grounded and serve from that space. Before, because when I look back now, I was actually very scattered. I wasn't grounded. I wasn't present. I wasn't really making connecting. Like maybe eye contact was holding eye contact was
Like overwhelming or too much.
No, maybe intimidating, because
Mm.
I wasn't fully there. I
Yeah.
had no idea of that pattern until I just look back now. I was just talking about it with someone the other day. I was like, "Huh, yeah, that's interesting." I was just like, because I was just too in my head, like fast, 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 like
Yeah.
so interesting, isn't it? I would have continued going through life like that, burning
Not
myself
knowing
out.
otherwise, right? Because you
Yeah,
don't. You only know
that's
what
the
you know.
norm. Exactly. So it's enabled more flexibility
Mm.
to feel all the whole spectrum of humanness, because it's not about being calm and regulated all the time and peaceful. It's about flexibility. Can you be present with the whole range of emotions? Because life is gonna life.
Life is gonna life. Yes. I love that. That's going to be the title of this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Life is gonna life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's sometimes this concept, I think, in the wellness spiritual community of like, well, it's about just coming back to being calm and like being in that meditative state. It's like, yeah, we want to I call it coherence, where, heart, mind, heart, body, energy are in coherence, oscillating kind of in their rhythmical way, because we are rhythmical and cyclical beings.
Yeah.
Everything is oscillating. Nothing is still internally in here, in the physiology, your cells, everything is vibrating, right? There is an orchestra that's going on internally. That's the coherence. Is your orchestra in tune? Every organ is vibrating at a different resonance, a different sound, at a different frequency. So that orchestra is that beautiful symphony, right? The out of tune orchestra, that's just the incoherence. That's the disharmony in the body, in the oscillations, which can manifest as dis-ease in the body. So we can really keep it quite simple. And so I've gone off on one.
That's
Lost my
okay, because
thought.
I've never heard it described like that. Like the orchestra, like,
Yeah.
and if you are in coherence and it's in rhythm, and that's so beautiful, like the way to describe it and to think about it. I love that, Fran.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. It's about kind of coming back to that state, but also, you know, you might be hit with things, grief and anger, of course, and being able to allow that to move through and flow through your system so that it doesn't stay in harbor and create this this out of tuneness, but we have the flexibility to be present with it and also enable it to feel it and move it through our systems.
Beautiful. And thank you for saying that, because like you said, in the spiritual community, or the wellness industry, people are always talking about being calm and finding the stillness. That a lot of the time when we have these emotions that are bigger or heavier emotions like anger, people are like, oh, you shouldn't be feeling anger, or anger's a bad emotion, or it's, you shouldn't be angry. And I'm like, that is not true. Like, we're allowed to have every single emotion available to us. But
Mm,
like you said, it's how you can allow that to move through you. How do you work with that emotion? And, anger in particular, I say to my clients, it's just showing you that maybe something's out of alignment for you. Maybe, boundaries being crossed, something's come up for you. There's some clearing that needs to be done, but honor that emotion, welcome it all. It's
mm,
knowing how to be able to move through that and honoring it. It's all part of you, right?
yeah.
Don't turn away from those aspects of you. And this is why I think like that we go into the shadow work here, when people then turn away from those parts of themselves that they should be honoring and welcoming in, and like you said, allowing to move through to find that symphony, that synchronicity of that orchestra again.
Yes, because when you internalize it, that makes you sick.
Mm,
When you harbor and hold, that makes you sick.
yeah, that's that dis-ease you're talking about, which
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So when you work with the breath, tell me like some of your experiences with it. So because I love sharing about this. For me, I'm so passionate about the breath and I want people to experience it in many different ways. What does your own practice look like? Because we're both trained in transformational breath. Do you have other breathwork practices that you go to? Is it that mostly transformational breath, which is the connected breathwork practice? How does it still support you day to day? What does your own relationship with the breath look like now?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Usually for breathwork, I mostly do the conscious connected breath. the transformational breath. Sorry, something in my throat there. So either 5 minutes a day or so. Or the other breath work that I do is what's called a straw breath. So this helps to open up the diaphragm. It's like imagine you inhale through the straw, and then I exhale out.
Oh, well, can you maybe guide us through this? Because I always ask at the end of an episode, I always ask someone every guest to share something with us. So maybe this would be a beautiful one for you to share with our listeners, if that is something they can do for themselves.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. So sometimes I do that. That's something I learned in my first bodywork training. But I usually do like the conscious connected 5 minutes a day, and then once a week I'll do a longer session, maybe half an hour or so, just to really reset my system. Like we're saying, life is lifing, so it's just helping to kind of just shed the week. Shed the day, shed the noise and clutter, there's it really takes a conscious effort in this world and these times that we're living to not become overly consumed with so much clutter, noise, distraction. And so, it's being able to come back to your coherence, to hear yourself, because from that place you're powerful. We're not powerful if we're being swung off our center all the time and overloaded with noise and distraction and confusion.
I love
Creates
that.
more chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right, just coming back to be able to hear yourself, because you are so unique. There's literally no one else out there that sees the world like you do, that interacts in the world like you do. And it's important for you to be able to connect with that and show up as your whole self, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. And I love that you share your practice. And the reason I always ask this is because sometimes people come for breath work and they're like, oh, I've done it, I've tried it, and that's it. And I'm like, great, you can have some incredible experiences from practicing a breathwork session once, twice, however many times. But it's the consistency, maintaining that, using it as, part of your world, that's going to give you that ongoing support, in my opinion. And that's why I love to hear, how it supports you as an individual. And you've shared that, you've got things that the way you implement it in your life as a tool as well. It's always there to support you, right?
Yeah, I love that you say that, Jess, because 100% I agree with that. I always say there is the experience, and then there is the transformation. So the experience is okay, yeah, come for you could do like the odd session, like once. You could try breathwork once or twice. That's an experience. It's not necessarily going to bring the transformation, because that needs the integration is the most important thing. Integrating into life and bringing that heightened conscious awareness into, what's different now? It's not going to happen in 1 or 2 times. That's going to be an experience. But to integrate it, the embodiment and transformation comes with a consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What advice would you give to anyone who's listening, who's maybe either never tried breath work and curious about it, or is starting to explore it and trying different types of breath work? Do you have any advice for anyone who's embarking on that journey with breath?
Well, first of all, make sure you go to someone who's well trained. So we see.
Yes, please expand on that.
Yeah, I know you spoke with Susie. This work is powerful. We know it's powerful. It's very powerful. It opens, it's altered states of consciousness. Ultimately, it's opening up into the emotional body, where old trauma can come up to the surface and move through. And there's, as we're seeing now that breathwork has become so mainstream, that there are people who even maybe have gone to a few workshops, or dabbled in, not even completed their training, just showed up for the bare minimum, now either running their own training or their own workshops. And people are coming away re-traumatized and just left, and not like it's not being safely held. And that's really So that's really, really important. So ask
Can I just
about
expound on that?
training.
Because I heard this yesterday when someone was trying to defend the fact that, I've shared before with Susie, we've talked about this, about people being traumatized, re-traumatized in breathwork sessions because they're not being held safely. And someone's argument against this was that during a breathwork session, things will come to the surface. That's what's supposed to happen. And I'm like, okay, yes, but then you don't leave them there in that trauma. You complete the cycle, you move through it. So they don't leave feeling open, feeling traumatized with that trauma at the surface, and they don't know what to do with it. So I just wanted to highlight that because, there's people out there that are now questioning, oh, well, you're supposed to feel that in a breathwork session. I'm like, you're not supposed to leave a breathwork session feeling like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
exactly.
difference.
Exactly. Because then, it's like you say, it's not completed, and it's not being held. And also just to be able to read people's physiology. I mean, we have in our training, we are extensively trained in reading the breath pattern. I remember when I first started doing that, I was like, how am I ever going to see what she sees? I don't understand. How does she see that? Now you read it like a language. You're like, you can see exactly what's going on. You can read people's physiology. That takes skill, that takes embodiment, that takes time.
Yes.
So you can't, like, and to be able to work with that when that comes up in a session, and how to move that through, is really important. Because like we're saying, the experience versus the transformation, like, if it can't then be embodied afterwards, what's the point? You haven't done the job.
Yeah.
It's not integrated then into life. It's not about the big experience and the big catharsism, the big release.
Thank you for
That's
saying.
another part. That's another part of our society, chasing the big shift, the bigness. And like, that is, the more that's more productive, the more release there is, the kind of the bigger the stress output. Bullshit. I'm going to call bullshit on it. Because how the heck is that person then going to go back into life? They have to go back into life as an embodied experience. It needs to be an embodied experience, not just a cathartic experience chasing a big release. It needs to be embodied so that they can integrate it into their life, because it's about then taking them into how they then relate back into life. It's the same with the plant medicine world as well. They're just going to do ayahuasca every month, or every few weeks. Okay, how are you integrating that into your life?
Yeah.
That's the ceremony. Life is the ceremony.
Thank you for saying this.
That just like, whoo, flowed through me.
I felt it from you because it's so real. And I think that even though this conversation came up with Susie in the last episode as well, it's like, it's a conversation we're having amongst a community, right? This is happening, and it's about an education process, because some people may be just experiencing things without full knowledge, or they're getting swept up in something because they're feeling something for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And actually it's like, oh wow, I'm feeling something, this is great. And actually, okay, great, you're feeling something, but make sure you are starting to integrate that and embody that into life. It's lifelong. You're making lasting changes in your life. It's not about, like you said, going and doing ayahuasca every month. And I have my own personal thoughts on that. Like, personally, I haven't yet had an ayahuasca experience, but I have been offered it for the last 10 years. I've had those times. I lived in Brazil for a while, and I feel like it calls you when it's the right time.
Yeah,
So I'm not saying I
totally.
won't, but I have, spoken with these leaders and the people that are administering this, and you have to respect the medicine.
Big time.
It's not just something you do off whim like that. You've got to respect it yourself, the process, everything involved, and what it can bring you. And it's very much the same with the breath. You've
Yeah.
got to respect the breath. Like you said, it's become something that's popular, and people are looking for that buzz, that excitement, that big energy. And breathwork can bring that for you, but that's not where it should leave you, right?
Exactly. Yeah, well
Oh,
said.
I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
We should do a podcast on that.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Is, you know, that now we're seeing a bit of an addiction to healing and fixing.
Yes.
And I heal this. Let me get it out my system. You know, there is such a thing as the trepidation, little by little, so that your body, you can actually integrate into your nervous system, into your whole system without flooding and shocking it. So the trepidation is like, let's say there's a hose pipe. Yeah. You turn the tap on a little. So some trauma, you know, some emotional trauma comes through, releases, but your body, you're still embodied in like the experience. It's like your system still feels safe to process that. And then there's like turn it on full power, and the hose pipe like explodes out. That's the kind of like the big cathartic, let's you know, it's another let's push through this breath work. We don't need to.
We don't need to.
You don't need, yeah.
At your own pace, and at your own pace. Like, it's okay to go at your pace. Everyone is different. Everyone's breathwork experience will be different. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's healing is different.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself. Don't go chasing the next buzz. It's like, oh, look, they're having that experience. That's what I should be feeling.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And also to note, sometimes that can come up. Those big emotions can come up and move through. But again, it's being able to take that person back into, like you say, completing that cycle, embodied in back into the body.
Yeah, like you said, not overwhelming your system.
Yeah.
Because then that can take you time to recover from again. And it's like, that's not what we're aiming for here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm so pleased you've brought this up. And I hope, you know, people will start to lean into a little bit more of their own due diligence when they're working with people, and understanding a bit more about the breath and what experiences they can have, and using their own intuition in who they're working with and how they're experiencing the breath themselves. And I always say, if anyone has any questions, if they're ever unsure, reach out to me, reach out to Fran. I'm sure she'll be happy to like talk to you about any of this. But yeah, I think as the industry grows, as breathwork is becoming more popular, we need to educate people a little bit more on these things.
Yeah. Yes, I'd say that if people looking to go for the first time, like, do your due diligence, ask where to train, how long did their training take, you know? And what else would I say? I think safety, like, do you like connect with that person you're working with? Do you feel like do you feel connected to that person? Do you feel, safety's a big one.
Safety's
feeling safe. Yeah.
big. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. Oh, brilliant. Well, how do people work with you? If there's anyone listening that wants to get in contact with you, who do you work with? How do you work with people? How can they reach out?
So I have a few things. Well, I run workshops at the moment, in person in London, Embodied Wisdom series, and each time is a different theme. They run kind of not set. Depending when this podcast comes out, the next one, I've got one in a week and a half, and the next one will probably be September, October. And then I'm working on a digital on-demand version, Embodied Wisdom series, so that they'll be working through different areas in the body to release with some gentle breathing exercises, not a full breathwork session because it's online. And then one-to-one, I have some one-to-one programs where I take people through the transformation using the body work and the breath work and coaching to help bring the shifts from the sessions into their everyday life, to embody into life. So who do I work with? I work with a lot of leaders, high achievers, soul-led entrepreneurs here to bring their soul medicine out into the world. But, you know, as I was saying in the previous conversation, entrepreneurship is the biggest personal development journey you'll go on. It will bring up all your stuff.
Yes.
About being seen, the inner child stuff, all that stuff will start to creep up. It's just like a relationship. So that's how I work with my clients. with that.
Beautiful. And if you got, is a website the best way to reach you, or socials?
Probably Instagram, Mind Body Alchemist, and then my website. All my offerings are on there, www.mind-bodyalchemist.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Fran. I'm going to pop all of this into the notes anyway, but it's always just lovely to hear from you.
Thank
Best way
you.
to get in touch. And I would love if you were happy to guide us through what you were sharing before about it was a
Yes.
diaphragm release.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm going to shift back slightly. Yeah, so this is so the diaphragm, again, this is where a lot of my work started before I came into the breath work, was working on releasing the diaphragm. So all my clients at that time would be, my personal training clients were like my guinea pigs, and I'd be releasing the diaphragm on the gym floor. So now we'll do it online. So what you do is just feeling like that belt of muscle that goes around the ribs is your diaphragm. That's your breathing muscle. This is like so central to the function and health of the body. And for most people, it's really tight. So what I guide people to do is just first of all take your thumb into the center of where your ribs meet, in the hollow space, not on the bone, not on the floating bone. And for most people, that will feel quite tender. Now, if you're lying down, it's a bit better. You can get into it a little easier. And then just using your fingertips as if you're trying to get underneath the ribs here. You're getting into all that connective tissue. And I use the fingertips or the thumb, to almost apply some firm pressure forwards and back. Breathing at the same time to help loosen and create more suppleness in that tissue. Because when we do that, you know, the diaphragm has lymph nodes, so you're going to improve that pumping of the lymphatic system, expansion of the diaphragm when you breathe, which is going to help send nutrient-dense blood and vitality to all of the abdominal vital organs and abdominal organs, digestive organs, reproductive organs, simply because you've opened the diaphragm, and it will massage the organs with each breath. So yeah, get into both sides. And I find it starts to unwind my shoulders. It's really nice. So I just move with it a little bit. And then this is a straw breath. So imagine you have a straw. You take it to your lips, fingertips to your lips, and you inhale. And as you inhale, your belly, you feel your belly, ribs expand. So hands on the lower belly. I inhale, sucking the breath in. And then I exhale out through the mouth with a relaxed sigh. And then do that, I don't know, 8 times or so. Feel a sense of the lower back opening as well. Feel the ribs expanding outwards as you inhale too. And a sense of the kidneys floating. Exhale. So as you bring more breath in, it's like the organs begin to float. There is more space in the organs, the kidneys raise. Let's take one more. Exhale. And then gently just closing the eyes, turning your focus inwards, just sensing how everything is, how everything feels. Slowly, slowly come back. So what I love about that afterwards, maybe some of the listeners as well, you just feel like there's just a quietness. There's a less noise internally. There's more. It's like the static. I call it the static. The static is just the noise in our tissues, in our body, in a subconscious mind. And that all just turns down a bit, a lot. And that's the body going more into the nervous system, rather dropping more into the parasympathetic, rest, heal, and digest, relaxation response.
That was so wonderful. Thank you. I could definitely feel some points when we're doing the diaphragmatic release. I'm like, oh, I need to just breathe into that a little more. So it's always nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was so beautiful. I do feel a lot quieter, and I love that, it turns down that static, like you said, makes that space beautiful, just from what 8 breaths we did there.
Yeah. Nice little reset. Yeah.
Nice little reset. Thank you so much, Fran,
Oh,
for sharing
thank you,
that with
Jessie. That was
us.
so fun. I love doing podcasts. I haven't done one for ages.
Oh my gosh, well, I will have you on again. Honestly, it's such a pleasure. It was such a pleasure. I love this. So I've really enjoyed everything we've spoken about. I'm sure I will have you on again. There's many conversations we've started, I feel, that we can expand on each of those topics, right?
Keep going, for
Yeah.
sure.
I will be getting this out as soon as possible. I'll share off your details in the show notes. So anyone that's listening that has any thoughts, any feedbacks, please let us know and reach out to Fran. Do give her a follow as well. I know your Instagram's blowing up at the moment as well. You've had an amazing video shared, and it's just, putting your magic, your soul medicine out in the world, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yes, absolutely.
thank you. And
Thank you
we'll
so
be
much.
back soon.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening today. If anything resonated, then let us know below. And if you've enjoyed what you've heard, then please remember to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep reaching more people to spread the endless benefits and transformations we can experience through breathwork. I'll see you in the next episode.